In the realm of aerospace technology, China has gained widespread recognition for its numerous advantages. The Long March 9 has long been hailed as the future star of China's aerospace industry. Its multifaceted role extends beyond delivering Chinese astronauts to the moon, fostering deep space exploration. It's instrumental in establishing lunar bases, exploring lunar resources, and more, a testament to its formidable capabilities. Just a few months ago, the main engine of China's manned lunar rocket, the Long March 10, completed another successful ignition test lasting 22 days. This verified the engine's performance requirements for rocket flight missions, providing robust support for solidifying engine technology, establishing product technology baselines, and enhancing reliability. This report signals a major milestone: the successful ignition tests of the core stage and boosters of the Long March 10 rocket used in manned spaceflight. It signifies that China's mission to land humans on the moon is vigorously underway. In today's video, our focus will be on China's space exploration, particularly its lunar exploration and manned moon landing plans. In fact, China has firmly set its sights on achieving manned moon landings by 2030. According to the plan, achieving this feat involves not only developing a new generation of carrier rockets and manned spacecraft, but also designing a series of new equipment like lunar landers, manned lunar rovers, and lunar geological sample recovery chambers. This evokes reminiscences of two significant events. Firstly, the US-Soviet moon landing race in the 1960s and 70s. Amidst the Cold War, the US and Soviet Union engaged in a fierce competition in military and technological spheres, with space exploration being the pinnacle. On April 12, 1961, Soviet cosmonaut Yuri Gagarin soared into space aboard Vostok 1, becoming the first human in space. This Soviet space breakthrough significantly spurred the US. Worried that the Soviet Union would seize technological dominance, the US scientific and political circles engaged in intense debates immediately after Gagarin's flight. On May 25, 1961, Kennedy explicitly stated in a speech the intent to land American astronauts on the moon by the end of the 1960s. On July 16, 1969, the Saturn V rocket carrying the Apollo 11 spacecraft launched from the Kennedy Space Center in the U.S., commencing humanity's maiden lunar landing mission. U.S. astronauts Neil Armstrong, Buzz Aldrin, and Michael Collins piloted the Apollo 11 spacecraft on a journey spanning 238,900 miles, fulfilling the dreams of all mankind by setting foot on the lunar surface. There have been debates about the authenticity of the U.S. moon landing, but we won't discuss its objective reality here, only its political significance. In terms of political impact, the U.S. moon landing undeniably had the effect of actually reaching the moon. Because it was this success that outshone the Soviet Union's failure, ultimately proving the U.S.'s technological superiority, a disparity that weighed heavily on the collapse of the Soviet Union, keeping them far behind and unable to catch up. Why did the U.S. terminate the manned lunar landing project by the end of 1972? The fundamental reason lies in their victory, having established technological dominance and assured that the Soviet Union couldn't catch up. Hence, the U.S. government ended this extremely costly and cutting-edge project. The primary motivation behind this project wasn't the societal or economic needs at that time, but rather the geopolitical competition between superpowers. Therefore, once the U.S. secured victory in this competition, the mission of this project came to an end. According to data disclosed by the U.S. government, the Apollo program cost approximately $120 billion, equivalent to around $1 trillion today, a financial burden the U.S. economy couldn't sustain in the long run. Secondly, the United States has relaunched its lunar landing program, successfully launching its manned lunar spacecraft. At 1:47 a.m. on November 16, 2022, the National Aeronautics and Space Administration, NASA, launched its next-generation lunar rocket, the Space Launch System, for the Artemis I unmanned lunar orbit flight test. The success of this launch was incredibly challenging, encountering multiple delays and setbacks along the way. The new lunar landing initiative announced by the U.S. government in 2019, the Artemis program. This successful rocket launch marks the first step for the U.S. in returning humans to the moon. The latest U.S. lunar landing plan comprises 3 phases: Artemis I for an unmanned lunar orbit flight test, followed by Artemis II for a manned lunar orbit flight test, and finally Artemis III for human lunar landing. Initially, NASA planned to send American astronauts to the moon by 2024. However, with this initial step taking over 3 years, completion by that time is improbable. NASA subsequently announced the earliest potential achievement of manned lunar landing by 2025. However, given the current circumstances, achieving this seems highly unlikely as well. One can't help but ask, why does the United States seek to return to the moon after more than half a century? The answer is simple: because China is aiming for manned lunar landings. It's not an exaggeration to say that if China achieves manned lunar landings before the United States, it would be akin to the United States surpassing the Soviet Union when it landed on the moon. The world would perceive China's technology as surpassing that of the United States. Moreover, if Chinese individuals set foot on the moon while Americans fail to return, it will cast doubt worldwide on whether the US ever truly landed on the moon. It's essential to remind comrades here that whether the US genuinely landed on the moon at that time isn't crucial. The critical aspect is that people stop believing the US did. Therefore, the United States must return to the moon before China achieves manned lunar landings, or else it will lose its standing at the forefront of global technology. However, returning to the moon isn't easy. It requires not only technological prowess but also substantial financial support. With the current might of the United States, although it's still plausible they might reach the moon before China, their plans for 2024 or 2025 are merely associated with robust political effects. Presently, the United States must make the world believe they still outpace China in technology. Otherwise, the global hierarchical system previously established by the US will quickly crumble. Hence, when the United States realized the potential for China to achieve manned lunar landings by 2030, they immediately relaunched their manned lunar program in 2019, aiming to accomplish manned lunar landings within 5 years. The 2024 manned lunar landing plan for the United States has fizzled out, and the 2025 plan is likely a castle in the air. No one can definitively state the year the United States will achieve manned lunar landings. However, while the US lacks a clear timetable, China has already unveiled theirs. According to their plan, China aims to achieve manned lunar landings by 2030, meaning in the coming 6 to 7 years, Chinese individuals will inevitably set foot on the moon, regardless of American attempts. Consequently, time is running out for the Americans. If Americans indeed fail to land on the moon in the next 6 to 7 years, or if their lunar missions fail, the image of the United States standing at the pinnacle of global technology for the past several decades will completely collapse. The top spot in technology is limited, and the time left for Americans is truly dwindling. Some might argue, but what if Americans do achieve manned lunar landings in the next 6 to 7 years? In that case, we would congratulate the United States, but it would be challenging for them to sustain their lead. Because China isn't just sending humans to the moon, but they're sending robots there first. According to academician Wu Weiren, the chief designer of China's lunar exploration program, in an interview with reporters in November 2022, the 4th phase of the lunar exploration mission is about to commence. Chang'e 7 and Chang'e 8 will establish the foundational framework for a lunar research station on the moon. As per the plan, China aims to establish a robotic base on the moon by 2028, with human landing scheduled for 2030. In other words, before our manned lunar missions, robots will have already constructed the base. Presently, the US aims for manned lunar landings by 2025 and to also have a lunar base by 2028. Can these plans truly come to fruition? Therefore, the current scenario is that China is steadily and systematically developing its lunar presence, step by step. Observing China's escalating advancements, the US feels the pressure and hastily attempts to catch up. It's no exaggeration to say that the space race between China and the US is the highest level of technological competition between major nations. This contest won't last an especially long time. Estimates suggest around 10 to 15 years, roughly concluding by 2035 to 2040. The victor of this competition will likely emerge as the global leader. Objectively speaking, this will determine the fate of the world in the coming century, essentially deciding who will lead the world for the next 100 years. This is the end of this video. Thank you for watching. Please like, subscribe, and comment. We genuinely appreciate your support.